It's time to talk golf again on Prime Sports Network. And look who's back, Jan Stephenson. Not only is she back, but she's on time. How's it going, Jan?
Good, good. I know. I practiced early, got it all done, and back home.
Awesome. And of course, Jared Stoller with us once again. Jared, how's everything going? Draft Sharks, what's going on there?
Football's getting busier. I know I'm on like 2 other podcasts next week. So that's when I know like football season's getting close when, other podcasts are inviting me to come on. So that's going well. Yeah, excited for this week. Mostly excited for next week, the U.S. Open. But we'll try to hit a winner this week beforehand.
Oh, who's you mean?
It's just going to be hard. This is a hard one.
It is.
Yes, yeah. It is very difficult. Jared, I never asked you, Smola. What is that? Where you descent from?
That's Polish.
Polish. I got some Polish in me. Of course, the Palma, that Italian outweighs the Polish, right. But it's Italian and Polish. So my grandmother was Polish, came from Poland. So both of your side, Poland?
No, Polish and German on my mom's side.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So were they from the homeland back in the 30s and 40s? That must have been, if they were, that could have been some interesting discussion.
I'm not sure. I've never heard those stories. Maybe I should.
What are you waiting for? Come on, man.
could be interesting.
Yeah, I would think so. We know where Jan's from, Australia, and that's where Minjee Lee's from.
Yeah.
Winner of the Women's U.S. Open, and she is now the 3rd Aussie female to win multiple majors.
Actually, yeah, that's true. I was going to say Hannah Green won the KPMG, but the PGA, the LPGA Championship. But you're right.
And the other one, of course, is
Carrie Webb.
Yes, how many does Carrie have?
She has a lot. She has like 5 or 6, I think.
Okay.
Maybe even 7. She's won a lot of majors because they count the British Open now. So I know she won that. So, and I watched her play 2, 3, 4. She's got to have an LPGA. I can count 5 that I was there for. So she's probably got more.
What'd you think about her victory? And what'd you think about the event?
Well, Minjee Lee's a great player. I mean, it's too bad it couldn't come on because now it's obviously after the fact, it's like, that quarterback deal. But I thought that she'd have a chance, her, Leo Ko, and Jin Young Ko, because they've been playing so well. But I really was surprised because she's not she is longer than average because that golf course is pretty wide open driving. They took all the rough away when we played the senior there a few years ago. They were getting ready to take all the rough out and try to make it more like Augusta with just the trees and like Pinehurst with the fairway bunker stuff. And I actually I liked it better the old way.
And what would be the headline, the storyline of the tournament itself?
Well, I mean, it's great because Minjee Lee's, I like it because she shows emotion. She speaks really good English, even if it is with an Australian accent. And I just thought it was great because she's a really good champion. She's an excellent golfer.
Were there any great shots or any controversy, anything at all that, because
no, actually, surprisingly, normally with the USGA, there's always something, because they always tend to trick the golf courses up and they want you to play so defensive, but they actually made the course, it wasn't as long as I thought they'd play it. They played it at pretty much the same tees we played the senior championship at, which was kind of surprising. That's why the scores were so low. But I was really surprised. I was expecting them to toughen the course up, and they didn't.
What was the winning score?
I think 13 or 14 under,
wow.
Something really low for a major. And, the USGA's goal is always for the winning score to be even par. So I was surprised to see them be pretty lenient. Maybe it's because now Mike Wan is now the CEO of the USGA. He was the commissioner of the LPGA. Maybe he was trying to make them look good.
Okay, we'll see about that. And Jared, by the way, you can cut in anytime you want, any questions you have for Jan, or else I'll just not stop. Okay, so as far as the big story is, well, first of all, Monday at US Open qualifying, we'll talk about that, but we have to start with, and we will get to preview the Canadian Open. And so if anybody looking, you'll see on the bottom of the screen, we've got everything in sections. And if you are just on this video, you don't care about anything else except our picks, you can find out exactly where we're going to talk about our picks. But the big story this week is not just Phil Mickelson. We knew he was probably going to go to this LIV tournament, the Saudi Arabian tournament, this cash cow. But Dustin Johnson decides to go. Wow. And what did he get? 125 million, Jared? Something like that?
Heard it was something, in the hundreds of millions. Yeah, I mean, it's surprising if you listen to him. Like, he's like, this was best for me and my family, and that's kind of all he cares about. So, I mean, if that's his prerogative. I think the other thing too with DJ is I just think and he probably knows he's just past his prime, and there's so many good young golfers now that he's, he hasn't been good this year. He hasn't really been in contention much this year. So I just think he knows, he's probably kind of past his peak when it comes to the PGA Tour, so he's going to go over there, make his money, and see where it goes, I guess.
I think you're absolutely right, because I know I talked to Kevin Na's caddy, because he used to caddy for me on tour, Kenny, and he was saying that, I think Kevin got like 45 million or something like that, but it's, we're only playing 13 events, and you can guarantee that, and in your 30s. I mean, you are, and nowadays it seems, it used to be you'd reached your peak in golf in your late 30s. Now it's in the late 20s. Yeah. And so these kids are so young, Sam and Scheffler and all those guys, they're so young that you're right, he's probably thinking, and he hasn't played well, that he's kind of an easy deal. I think the PGA is making a huge mistake. I think the PGA should be bigger than this. They put pressure on the USGA, and they should have been the bigger people, because we're only talking 13 events. Well, we're talking 4 or 5 events in America. It's a 54 hole with no cut. It's shotgun start. You're playing teams. It's not even I would have, usually the PGA and the LPGA have a rule. You're allowed 3 international exemptions a year or exemptions to play other events. And they have to be, more than 100, I think 50 or 100 miles away. But when you think about it, there's only the 5 tournaments. And then in the rules of the LPGA, and I think it's pretty much the same as the PGA, you have to agree, if you get an exemption that year, for that one, that you have to play it next year, so that for the next 2 years, you've got to play that event. I think the PGA should have been the bigger. They're so enormous, and there's so many great players. I am shocked that they're taking this stance.
Well, not only is Dustin Johnson gone, you mentioned Kevin Na, and we, of course, know Mickelson. But then all of a sudden, you start seeing other former major champs, Louis Oosthuizen, Charles Schwartzel, Graham McDowell. And then I think, look, Sergio. And then I think the biggest name to me, as far as the younger players, I also should mention Martin Keimer as far as former major champs, as far as the young up and coming players, Jared, is Taylor Gooch.
That was the biggest surprise to me, because those other guys you mentioned, Sergio, Schwartzel, Oosthuizen, they're in the same mold as Dustin Johnson, where they've had their peak already. So they made sense to me. Gooch, I was surprised by, because I think he's an up and comer. I think he could have won. Maybe he still will end up winning on the PGA Tour. But yeah, that was the biggest surprise name to me.
Yeah, but it's hard to turn down that money, guaranteed money that you're set for the rest of your life. It's like with, sure. I mean, Dustin Johnson. Okay, say he gets 100 million, he'd never make that much on the PGA Tour, and you're only talking, especially if you have a family. You couldn't, for 13 events, you can be home a lot. But with Taylor, I agree. I mean, I'm surprised. There's also a lot of the college kids that are going. They're going to skip finishing college, but I can see them too also, because now they don't have to go through the Corn Ferry. They don't have to, something happens and you miss qualifying, you've got to wait a whole nother year. So I can see how some of the college kids are going too.
Now, I don't know how much they're making, but to me, that would seem like the best way, because now you're getting paid more, obviously, because you're not going to be successful early in your career. And it's not going to be a lifetime deal. I mean, what are these deals going to be for? 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year? I have no idea. It's not going to be 10 years. So you can play there for a few years, make a lot of money, and then once you're ready, if you want, now I'm ready for the PGA Tour.
I agree. I mean, you're right. I can see the college kids doing it. Yeah. And if they wanted their degree, that there's only 13 events, they can get it online.
Yeah, there you go. They've had enough practice lately.
The big question to me is, are these guys going to be able to play the majors? After playing on the LIV Tour,
well,
if they are, I could.
Didn't they? That just said that no.
They said they are going to be able to play in the U.S. Open next week, but that's all they said. They didn't say about the British or the majors next year. It was just that these guys will be able to play. Phil and DJ will be able to play in the U.S. Open next week.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if they do, and what kind of response they get.
What does LIV stand for anyway?
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that myself.
I don't know. the whole thing is incredibly cheesy. I don't know if you guys saw the draft they did today and the team names. The logos look like they were made by like middle schoolers. It's really cheesy.
Well,
no, I didn't see that. I'll have to go look.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I mean, you see anything that comes from that part of the world, it can be cheesy. Yeah. I don't know. It's a good question. What does LIV stand for? They also decided to, the other players that came, which were good players on the European tours, Wiesberger, he's a good player. Harding, Horsfield, and Ian Poulter's going. So
is Lee Westwood going too? I heard.
Lee Westwood.
Yep.
So.
But again, like you said, they were just hanging around to wait for this Champions Tour anyway.
Yeah,
I saw the odds. I saw the odds somewhere. Dustin Johnson's plus 350. I think like Gooch is plus 600. Kevin Na was less than 10-1. It's obviously top heavy as far as the odds go.
Now it's interesting that LIV, the Roman numeral is 54. Stands for 54. I wonder if that has anything. I don't know what 54 would be.
Unless it's a 54 holes, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Now you said something about, how are they playing? You said they're going to play 3 rounds. And did you also
3 rounds, no cut, team events. So each country.
Is that team events every week?
As well as individual.
Ah, okay. That's good. That's not bad.
And I heard it was shotgun starts, which is weird.
What does that mean?
So you don't know who's doing unless you're looking at the leaderboards.
What's that mean?
Right.
Shotgun starts?
But they all start at the same time on different holes.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. And it's this week in London, right? And they have their own website. It is, what is it? livgolf.com. They also said we could watch it on YouTube.
Yep. Yeah, that's the only way you can watch it. Yep.
They couldn't get any networks to do it.
Well, for now, money talks.
And by the way, this isn't confirmed yet, but I heard a few hours ago that Bryson is going to play in the Portland LIV event, so he might be the next big name to make that move.
I know they'd offered him a lot of money, and then he got hurt, and so he hasn't played. Right. So I don't know if they still offered him that much.
Okay, now as far as qualifying, is this it now from Ricky Fowler? Because not only does Ricky Fowler fail to qualify, but it wasn't like he was in this sectional with like the toughest players. He lost to Ryan Gerard, Sean Jacklin, Keith Green, and Fred Biondi. I don't even know who these guys are. And he lost. I mean, can he please just wake the freak up and either fire everybody and start over again or get divorced? Do something.
He is not married yet, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he is married. That's right.
But do something to change what's going on with your game, because that's embarrassing.
His golf swing. He has to fix his golf swing. It's very bad.
That's been going on for 2 years now. I mean, come on.
He's been talked about as a guy who might play in this LIV Tour. I don't know if that's
would make sense.
Yet, but I know he was. Yeah.
Especially the way he's playing right now.
Exactly.
Take the money. Boy, everybody would love Ricky Fowler if he did that. They always give him the jab because he was the most overpriced, player and all that other stuff. So, all right. By the way, Davis Riley qualified. Good for him. Bo Hassler qualified. Matt Kuchar did not qualify U.S. Open. Nor did Brandt Snedeker, and Aaron Wise had to withdraw. I don't know if that had something to do with being in competition for the event on Sunday.
That's too bad. He probably would have got my money if he was playing next week.
Yeah, he played well.
Yeah,
he did.
And by the way, congratulations. Even though you did not win last week, Jared, you did have a remarkable 4 players in the top 5.
Billy just wouldn't give it away for me.
I know, and he missed the cut the week before, but I love his golf swing. What a great golf swing.
Yeah, I mean, he was not on my radar at all last week, but he has a tendency to pop up and win those bigger, tougher field tournaments.
Yeah.
So I wasn't a total surprise.
Yeah, because he is a great ball striker.
For sure. Good putter, too.
Yeah.
Even though I can't stand his putting technique, how he, sneaks up behind the ball. And
I know, it looks funny.
It works, though.
Okay, so what do we know about this golf course? Jan, have you been to St. George's Golf and Country Club? And they have only played it one time for the Canadian Open since 1970. That was in 2010.
Yeah, I've played it a lot. We used to, when we did our Canadian Open, we roamed as well. It was our major on the LPGA Tour back in the 80s and 90s. And St. George, Royal St. George is a beautiful golf course because we played it at par 71 or 72. So we had more par fives, but the way they've got it set up, it's only 3 par fives and 5 par threes. So it's a golf course, obviously that's going to be a good iron player. And the par fives are pretty short for them, but it's tight. And the thing that concerns me is that the greens are Poano, and if you have late tee times, they get so bumpy. And someone that's trying to make 10-footers is really hard.
Well, we'll definitely, as usual, have to look at the tee times. And what else do we know about this golf course, Jared? It's definitely more for the accurate golfer. Like the power golfer is not going to have an advantage here.
No, I think you're going to see quite a few, irons or hybrids off the tee. Like Jan was saying, it's only about 7,000 yards, and the fact that there's 5 par threes is interesting. I factored that into my model quite heavily this week. How well these guys do on par threes, and 4 of the 5 par threes are between 200 and 225 yards, so they're longer par threes. So I looked at that this week. It does seem like it's pretty tight off the tee. That I guess the rough is going to be up quite a bit. Small greens, as Jan mentioned. I think we had talked the previous few weeks about this potentially being a birdie fest. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't know what you think, Jan, but when Carl Pedersen won this in 2010, he won it -14. So I think might be looking at that type of score. It's not going to be a U.S. Open -5 winner, but I don't think anyone's going to be getting into the minus 20 territory this week.
Well, that's what I've always been saying, though. It's like when they messed up I thought the golf course at the PGA, they ruined that Southern Hills. We're trying to modernize it and trying to, make it tough for the guys. You can make a golf course tough without having to make it long. I mean, look at Colonial. It's really short. But, you can do it if you firm up the greens and you grow the rough and just have a premium on being able to hit it where you're aiming, especially if you have the greens firm, because even if they bomb it down there in the rough and they can, gouge it out with their power, they can't hold the green. So there's a way to do it without taking all the trees away and I'm so tired of them pulling all the trees out and making them just long, long, long.
So one of the stats you have here, Jared, are top 10 par threes between 200 and 225 over the last 2 years. And out of the players on that top 10, do you have anybody in your top 5? I mean, top 7? No, right?
I do not. I had Luke List, who withdrew. Actually bet Luke List, and I got refunded because he withdrew. But I did like him this week. But Matthew Fitzpatrick, who I believe is on your list, right? Is number list. 1 on
and
par
Keith
threes
Mitchell.
Between 200 and Keith Mitchell. There you go.
Yeah, they're both on my
list. So those
list.
guys excel on those.
And Harold
par
Varner's on my list too.
I'm mine too. I had Harold Varner and Fitzpatrick.
Where's your list, Jan? You didn't send me it.
Oh, well, I can give it to you now.
Yeah, go ahead. Email it to me.
I did. Oh, it's in my writing. I can't do it. Okay, you
can give it to us.
I did. Cam Smith.
This is your
still
top
I still
5?
think he's playing well. Yeah, Fitzpatrick. I mean, I don't know. I think Rory's ready.
My top pick.
I just feel like he's just one of those people that's ready to win, and it's not going to be a premium on putting because he misses some pretty easy putts. As far as the and I like Caravana. I like the Canadian. I like is the two I like are Adam Hadwin and Brendan Todd, because I know people say it's a lot of pressure when you go home and you got to, for the country. So I just feel like those two are playing well. And if you get on a roll, you've got such big gallery behind you. It's kind of like what happens when they're behind Tiger. It's just a really fun time. And that's why I picked Cam Smith, because with the Commonwealth, when you go to Canada, you feel like it's kind of going home a little bit to Australia. Right. And the same for Lowry, maybe that too, because there's something about, I know that my dad used to love it because I always played well. I actually won the tournament there in Canada. That was my first major. And it was like, my father loved it because they said the Canadian beer was more like Aussie beer. So.
Okay, there you go. All right. So your top two picks, those are going to be Cam Smith and Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
All right. And so Todd would definitely be considered like your top long shot. And actually, what do I have? I have, out of those picks, I do have Hadwin is my Canadian pick, and he's my top 5. Todd is one of my alternates. Fitzpatrick's my second pick. And Jared, you have Connors, not only as your only Canadian, but as your top pick overall.
Wow.
What about Corey
Connors? I do, yeah. And just talking the Canadian angle, maybe it's more pressure on these guys. I'm sure it is. But to me, you also don't need to worry about motivation with those guys. Yes. Where, the Rory McIlroys and the JTs and the Scotty Schefflers, you might have to worry about motivation with, looking ahead to the U.S. Open next week. So I kind of like the fact that, this is Connors, home open here. I'm just trusting the numbers with this one. He's first in my long-term model for this course. He's fourth in my short-term model. He is also, I looked at the best players in this field on courses less than 7,200 yards over the last 2 years, and Corey Connors is the best player in this field on those shorter golf courses.
Oh, wow.
And that makes sense because he's not a long player, but he's an accurate player. He's going to hit fairways here. He's going to hit greens. If he can just make some putts, I definitely think he's going to be in contention.
So, when is the last time a Canadian won?
Probably since Mike Weir. Mike Weir's the only one I know that's won there.
Mike Weir. The Masters champ.
Canada golf has to be as strong now as it's ever been, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of good Canadian players.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
Mike Weir.
He's in the field, actually.
I don't see Mike Weir. Last Canadian. I don't see Mike Weir in there. Last Canadian. I'm not even seeing a Canadian. Wow.
Wow. Maybe George Knudsen would have won it.
How about Pat Fletcher? Is he a Canadian? No, he's English.
No.
Wow, I'm not sure as a Canadian ever won this thing.
Yeah, they have to have.
It's got to be early in the early days.
Early in the 60s or 70s before they got computers.
Is that their? Oh, okay, because that's what that is. The Pat Fletcher. The flag is, it was a Canadian professional golfer, but they've got that English. They got the British flag with the Canadian flag back in the old days. So he won in 1954.
Wow.
That's the last Canadian.
Wow.
I don't see any other Canadian flags. There you go. Corey Connors.
Breaking the drought.
Yes. Okay, so that's good. And then, like I said, Hadwin, he's trending in the right direction. And I also think he's got a good combination of some of the stats that you're going to need to win this week. And as I said before, I just think he's a better golfer than what we've seen so far in his career. He did not qualify, though, for the U.S. Open. You were mentioning before the major. And so as usual, I looked at Rory. And let's keep in mind, Rory is the defending champ of this event, even though it's been 3 years. But Rory won the week before the U.S. Open.
Wow.
So he won the Canadian Open, then went to the U.S. Open, finished 9th. And do you know who finished in second to Rory that year? He's on my list. Jared.
Johnny Vegas.
Oh, he's on my list. I didn't pick Johnny Vegas.
I don't have your list.
You picked Johnny Vegas.
You have Caravana?
No, Shane Lowry.
Oh.
Was second.
Shane is ready. He's been playing. He's one of those ones you said he's been playing well. He's been playing a lot too.
He's getting into that, Jared, you know how it is when you a guy's close and you keep picking him and then he just keeps not winning. Like, dude, I've invested enough money on you already. Can you at least give me a win here at some point? I was not going to take him until I saw that. And I said, all right, well, he's got some karma with Rory coming into here. And so why not? So that just, for me, made a little sense. And then Varner, I looked at your stats, not only third in tee to green. And what was that? That was the tee to green stats for.
That was on short courses. So it's kind of surprising because you think of him as more of a power player. I do.
Yeah, he hits it long.
Yeah, he's done well in these shorter courses.
And then he's second on par threes between 200 225, which we talked about. So that's pretty good combo. And then for me, the creme de la creme was that if he wins, we'll be able to say Harold Varner has still never won on U.S. soil.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's true.
Sort of like
I mean, he was.
I think Louis
he was right there at the Charles Schwab.
What's that?
He was right there at the Charles Schwab before the bad Sunday.
Yeah.
He's been playing well.
Now I like Harold Varner. He's got a good shot.
And then Fitzpatrick, yes, that's definitely one of my picks because he's another one that you figure he's getting really close.
And he's not the longest of hitters, but he's a good ball striker.
And I would think he's one of those players too, Jared, that since he's never won a PGA Tour event, hey man, if he's there in contention over the weekend, he's going for it.
Yeah, I would not be worried about motivation for Fitzpatrick. Although I know I was already looking ahead to next week. He won the US Am at the Country Club, where we'll be next week. So he's probably going to be a popular pick next week because of that.
That's interesting.
I've got a assignment for you guys. I don't know if you've ever seen it. The greatest game ever played?
Of course.
Jared, have you seen it yet?
No, you mentioned that last week, and I told you I'd make sure to watch it before.
It's a great movie. I've seen it over and over and over.
Okay, yeah, I'll watch it before next week.
What was it? Shia LaBeouf was in it.
Yeah, he was Francis.
Mr. What was that? The blockbuster movies he was in, the Transformers. So yeah, but this was before he was a superstar, and you should see it. It's definitely the best golf movie. It destroys.
It's great. It's good.
That Will Smith.
Oh, that was so poorly. That was so poorly cast. If you read the book, it was they didn't get any of it right.
Bagger Vance.
What about Caddyshack? That counts as a golf movie.
That's a fun movie.
That's a fun. Yeah, that's just a.
That's a classic.
Yeah, no
Everybody
question.
quotes those lines.
Yeah.
Right.
It'll be on it has to be on the Golf Channel this week. They have to have it on the Golf Channel.
Oh, I'm sure it will be.
Has to. Okay. As far as the favorites, Scheffler and Justin Thomas. So Justin, I mean, right after winning the PGA Championship, and then the U.S. Open next week. I mean, how motivated or, where are the blinders going to be on Justin Thomas this week?
Yeah,
I for Canada or for the Open
this week.
He's just playing. He's just getting his game ready. Some people like to take the week off before and practice and rest, and because you have to have a lot of patience for a U.S. Open. I say it over and over and over. It takes forever to play. The rounds are 5.5 to 6 hours. They have too many people in the field because they have 50 amateurs that shouldn't be there. And the pros, we've all hated it over the years because you've just got to sit there and sit on your bag and wait. There's too many people the first 2 days, and the golf course is long. Brookline is long. I've played it, and it's a tough golf course. Even from like the white tees, it's really long.
You see, they probably have to. You could blame Shia LaBeouf for that, because him being an amateur and winning the U.S. Open, they're probably, hey, the more amateurs, the better. Let's get all these guys in there. It's like nobody's going to win this event anymore if you're an amateur. Come on.
No.
They have a 57-year-old that qualified for the U.S. Open, for crying out loud.
Wow.
57 years old.
That's awesome.
I never heard of him before. It's not like he's a 57-year-old on the Champions Tour. I don't even know who this guy is.
Wow.
You know who he is, Jared?
Is it Fran Quinn?
Yeah,
I want to say I was watching. I was watching the Golf Channel last night. I heard him talking about him.
Scheffler.
Oh, that's awesome.
I can't imagine Scheffler is going to be too interested this week. with the major coming up next week.
Well, he may have had an exemption somewhere, and then they ask you to place the weak field. So he probably probably owed the PGA one.
And then you mentioned Cam Smith. I was thinking about Cam Smith as well, but yeah, I don't know if he's going to be really.
I worry about his driving accuracy here, right?
I agree. That was my concern because he gets that hook going, and then, he just gets it offline, and you can't. That's why I don't like him for the Open, because it's, you've got to play. How much can he get up and down, and will he be able to get to the greens even? When the year they had at Pebble and the rough was so bad they couldn't even get to the green, then your short game gets really tested, and then it'll wear you out at an Open. So I don't like him for the Open. And this week is okay because it's a little bit shorter. He could probably still get it to the greens. It depends on how hard they make the greens. All
right, now I'm going to post our picks here as we talk about some of these long shots, and most of them are on Jared's board. So
I wouldn't have picked Cam to do as well as he did at Memorial, though.
Who's that?
Cam Smith.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. I remember Cam Smith was terrible. He had his best finish at the Memorial was 60th before this past week.
Yeah. Yep.
So maybe that's a good sign.
Who we didn't talk about that you had on your list was Tony Finau.
That's right. You have Tony Finau, Jared, and Patrick Reed.
Oh yeah.
I think Finau's back. He's been through a rough stretch there late last season and early on this year. But you look at his last 4 finishes now: 2nd at the Mexico Open, 41st at Wells Fargo, 30th at the PGA, and then 4th last time out at the Charles Schwab. And then if you look at the numbers, he's really popped, and he's popped in multiple categories lately. He gained 8 strokes on approach at Mexico. He gained 6 strokes off the tee at Wells Fargo. He gained 5 strokes on approach at Charles Schwab. So he's kind of like popping here or there. He just needs to put it all together for one event. And he's another guy that surprised me. He's 8th best in this field on short courses, which you would not expect from Tony Finau. But I think a lot of these power guys, they can just club down so much.
Exactly.
Finau can be hitting 5-iron off some of these tees where other guys are hitting hybrids or 5-wood. So it just helps his accuracy, and he gets in the fairway, then he can play from there.
Totally agree, because I love his golf swing, but he does hit it long, and when you've got that much club head speed, the ball can go crooked pretty easily. So, like you said, it's a good thing. I actually should have put him higher up, because not just because I like his golf swing. I think you're right. He can be hitting a 5-iron off the tee, and his putting is always suspect. It doesn't really matter as much there, because the greens are going to be hard to make putts on unless they change the grass. That grass gets so bumpy.
Now you have Reed. That's it. Now again, you had List.
I had List. Yeah.
What did you have List as your 4th pick?
Yes, 5? He was 60. He was 65-1. But yeah, he's out of the field. So
okay, so
I replaced him with Reed.
Why Reed? Because Reed.
Yeah.
What worries me about Reed is that he was bad for so long, for a player like Reed, bad, and then he starts to get momentum in 2 weeks, and it's okay, and then Memorial he goes backwards. It's maybe he was just good for a week. So why did you decide to go back to him again?
Yeah, you're right. Last week was disappointing. I bet him last week. He lost strokes off the tee and he lost strokes on approach. So it's definitely a step back. I'm just still buying a bounce back here, though, in general. And I think we talked last week how he changed drivers. He ditched the PXG. So I'm kind of betting on that, longer term, getting him going. He's always good around the green, and that's going to be important here with the smaller greens. And just 50-1 for a guy who has won plenty. Like if Reed's in contention on Sunday, I think he can get the job done. So I just like the number.
That was
50-1 for Reed.
That was the main thing for me was you are getting a player like that at 50-1 in this type of field. Yeah. Because once you get, it's like you go in the beginning, you go Scheffler, JT, McIlroy, Smith, and so forth. You go, wow, this is a really good field. And then once you get to Finau, it's just a drop off. And it's
there's no second tier players. There are very few second tier guys in the field. It's a few top end guys, and like you said, it drops off quickly.
And a lot of the top tier guys are worried about next week.
Yep.
So that's why it's a very hard week to handicap. Chris Kirk, who's also on your list. What were you going to say, Jan?
It is hard for that reason, because the top ones are just kind of feeling their way and seeing what they need to work on. And it's a chance for someone way down to win. If anyone's ever going to win from a high, odds, this is the week.
Well, the two winners before the first two majors this year were JJ Spawn and KH Lee. And I'm sure they were both, they were both in the hundreds, 100 to 150 to 1. So there
you go.
I mean, once you get on the PGA Tour, especially something like this where it's not that nerve-wracking, it's not like it's a major. So if they're used to competing, if that's the case, I'm going with that Aaron Rye. Oh. He's like 250 to 1.
All right.
There you go.
And at 50 to 1, you also have Chris Kirk. Now, Kirk has a similar trends kind of deal going like Patrick Reed's over the past like 6 or 8 events. Struggling, then all of a sudden, a couple of good events, but then went backwards in the Memorial. But we've talked pretty highly about Chris Kirk this season.
Yeah,
it does look like he's close to winning. If we're going to take one of these top third tier guys, maybe if we want to call him, he's on the short list.
Yeah, and if you look at his stats, when Kirk has struggled this season, it's been because he's putted poorly. His ball striking's been really good all season. If you look over the last 6 months in this field, he's 5th in strokes gained off the tee, and he's 29th in strokes gained approach. And he's a guy that's good on these short courses. That was kind of the theme of my picks here. I went with these guys that kind of are, short course specialists or excel on short courses. Chris Kirk is 6th in this field on short courses. So, yeah, he's a guy I think if you can just get that solid putting week, because the ball striking has been there. If you can just roll in some putts, I think he definitely is going to win soon.
All right, and then the only other player at 50 to 1 or lower that we have on the board is Mitchell. I mentioned him. I like the way he's trending. He's trending in the right direction, and he's on your list of par threes, 200 to 225. By the way, he did not qualify for the U.S. Open. Now we go to the 80 to 1 shots. I have Todd. I mentioned him already. And I just figured, hey, you know what? He was 3rd at the Charles Schwab. He basically came, he had a top 10 a few weeks before that, but that was the awakening. Whoa. And I know he's going through some changes too. I forget what changes he's going through, whether it's swing or equipment, but I know because he was really playing well. What was it, a year and a half ago, after being non-existent for years. But then again, he disappeared.
But he is Canadian, isn't he?
Todd, no. Todd's American.
Brandon Todd is American?
Yeah.
Thought he was Canadian.
And your 80 to 1 shot is CT Pan.
Oh, yeah.
What's up with CT Pan?
He's the ultimate short course specialist. Like he can't compete on these longer courses, but if you bring him somewhere here, I think he can get in the mix. Just look at his history. He won at Heritage short course.
Okay.
He has a 2nd place at Wyndham, a short course, a 3rd at Charles Schwab. That's where he has a chance. His irons have been awesome lately. He's gained on approach in 8 straight events now. He's 6th best in this field on approach over the last 3 months. So you kind of negate his lack of power off the tee, and you let him just put it in the fairway and then use that iron play. I think he's a good fit here.
Actually, that's a good pick. I would never have picked that. And also, the one incentive they have is that if they win this event, they automatically get in the U.S. Open.
There you go. So if you didn't qualify for it, here's another chance.
Yeah.
By the way, Pan has made 7 straight cuts on tour and 9 out of 10.
What are the odds on him, Jared?
80.
He's 80 to 1.
And then we go to the really big 2 long shots from Jared. And you may not hear these names again the rest of the year on a show.
Well, Doug Game is a guy I bet too much.
Really? Too much?
He always pops in my stats because he's a good ball striker.
Okay.
He had a great college career.
Yeah, but he's a horrible putter. But you're just kind of hoping he gets lucky on the greens one of these weeks. But just look over the last 2 years, so big sample size. He's 8th in this field in strokes gained approach. He is a really good iron player. He's 27th off the tee over that span. 180 to 1 in a weaker field. Again, if he can just get lucky and have a few putts find the bottom of the cup, I think he could be in the mix.
I just find it so difficult to take to pick the right long shots in a
Oh,
field
yeah.
that you kind of feel will come from long shots.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, a long shot could very well win this week for sure.
JT Poston is your second alternate. So why did you go with Mr. Poston?
Yeah, so he's inconsistent, but you look over just over the last 2 months, he has a 3rd place finish at Heritage short course, and he has a 9th place finish at Wells Fargo, a short course. He's another guy that does better on short courses. He actually won the Wyndham in 2019, which is another short course. And his irons have been good lately. He's gained on approach in 3 straight events and 5 of his last 6. And 200 to 1 on a guy who has done well on these shorter courses. I think he's worth a shot.
Hey man, if you're gonna if you really think a long shot's gonna win, you might just put a buck on, I don't know, 30 guys.
I know.
You know, and but make sure they're good players, obviously, or just darts at a board.
There's definitely some events where that makes sense. I think this is one of them.
And then who else? Who else was in your running for long shots? Because I was thinking about Hughes, one of the Canadians, who did qualify. 37th last week. I was thinking about Justin Rose. Justin is on your list of par threes.
Mm-hmm.
He's been inconsistent, but he is. I mean, I don't know. He's got to maybe think of it. I know next week's a major and all that, but I think Justin has to feel like I need to play well before I get into the U.S. Open. Who else did you think about this week for long shots? Svensson. You probably thought about Svensson.
I thought about Svensson.
Why didn't you pick him?
He hasn't been playing well for about a month now, so he doesn't.
Made his last 3 cuts.
But if you look at the strokes gain approach have not been good, which is usually kind of his bread and butter. So he just doesn't seem ready to get it done now. A few of the other long shots that kind of pop in the numbers I looked at. Pat Perez has been playing pretty well. Tyler Duncan. Brian Armour is a guy that plays well on short courses. Alex Smalley is a young kid that I think's up and coming. I mean, you could definitely make a card of 20 long shots this week and just call it a day and hope one of them gets in the mix.
Oh, I bet you if you did that, you'd have a handful of them.
Got a good golf swing.
Who's that?
Brian Harmon's got a good golf swing.
Roger Sloan, he almost won a couple of times last year.
Really?
Yeah, he was in that. He was in that playoff with Adam Scott, the one that Scott blew. Remember, he had that really short putt to win the event when there was 5-guy playoff. Sloan was one of them. Scott was one of them. I forget who won that event.
Was that the Wyndham?
Could have been. Yeah, I don't remember who won that.
Pulling it up. Kisner won,
Kisner?
right?
Okay.
Kisner, Brennan Grace, Adam Scott, Kevin Na, Roger Sloan were in the playoff. Yep.
And he did qualify for the U.S. Open, Mr. Sloan.
Well, what about Terrell Hatton? Everybody keeps saying he's ready to win.
I don't know. His accuracy is just off the table.
That's true. Yeah, I did consider Hatton, and he's 28, 30 to 1.
Putting well.
Yeah, he always putts well. He's just got to keep that temper under control. That's what gets him.
Yeah, he doesn't go great. Under pressure, he's always messed up coming down the stretch, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see, the last time he won was Abu Dhabi in 2021 in January. So
does he still have he still has just the one win on the PGA Tour, the API in 2020.
Yep, that was a nice win for him. I thought that was going to get him some momentum, but it just hasn't. I mean, he's consistent enough where he's got top 25s and so forth, but
he's making a great living.
Sure is.
Good that he's not going to the LVI.
Figure out
LIV. What that stands for.
LIV.
Is it LIV? LVI? I don't know.
LIV.
Yeah, that's because that's all they're calling it, the LIV Tour. Usually you have, so it has to really, I don't know, LIV, because that's exactly what. I didn't really expect them to call it the LIV Tour. I just figured they'd say LIV, but they're calling it the LIV Golf Tour. So it's got to be a reason that we just don't know. I mean, we're the fools. Everybody else knows.
Give everybody great living.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's going to matter much, though, Jared. There's so much parity on the PGA Tour. I don't think we're going to miss these guys.
Oh, yeah. I mean, honestly, Gooch is the one guy I wish would have stayed. Dustin Johnson doesn't even bother me much. Oosthuizen, I'm not. The PGA Tour has plenty of talent. I'm not worried about it at all.
All right, next.
And they're all older players. They've all, like I said, they've played well, so they're going to take this opportunity. But they're all really just hanging around till they got to Champions Tour, and now this is guaranteed that by the time they turn 50, they'll have umpteen million more.
Yep,
must be nice. You missed your window, Jan.
I know. When I won the Open, I won 50 grand, and she won what, 1.2 mil yesterday.
Wow.
Crazy. Next week is the U.S. Open. Kind of talked about that a little while ago, so can't wait for that. We're going to preview the U.S. Open. Jan, are you around? Are you just going to be playing golf next week and running late, or what are you going to be doing next week?
No, I'm around like I am right now.
U.S. Open.
I'm here. I'm home one more week.
Oh, and then you're going where?
To the Washington, D.C. for the pros and politicians.
Okay, so you're going to be actually playing.
And then I'm playing in the KP, and then I'll be at the KPMG Championship because there's past champions dinner for the LPGA, and then I'll be at Congressional on location.
Okay, so we'll talk all about that when we say goodbye to you next week, because we may not have you on for a few weeks. What's after the U.S. Open? Travelers?
I haven't looked that far.
Travelers.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yep.
And John Deere.
When is it? It should be getting time for the playoffs, isn't it?
No, we're still
eliminating.
That's after the British Open, right?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Have 2 more majors starting the U.S. Open, and then going to be a little bit.
That's where Cam Smith's going to win the British. I already bet that.
Why is that?
I got
that golf course. I agree.
Oh, on that
golf
golf
course. So it's wide open.
Yeah, and he can hit that big old hook, and it'll run a mile.
The weather could be the factor, though.
Sure, I hope so. It's always fun.
But he's good with wind because he grew up in Australia. It's windy there all the time.
What are his odds?
I got him at 40-1.
What?
A couple months ago.
When?
Yep.
Wow.
It was before he won the Players.
Okay.
It was after he won. What did he win? Sony or the Tournament of Champions? He won, right?
Yeah, he won the TSC.
Yeah, it was between that win and the Players win.
Wow, that's a brilliant.
Well, now
it pays
he
off.
has to win.
Exactly. He's got to deliver.
Then he can go on vacation again.
Maybe.
All right, Jared. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
We'll talk to you next week. Jan, hopefully we'll talk to you next week when we preview the U.S. Open.
All right, sounds good.
Thanks, guys.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.